This passage is just so deeply meaningful for me, and I pray for you as we think about who we want to be as we follow Jesus. Those who are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, but keeping our eyes on the author and perfecter of our faith, the one who for the joy set before him endured the cross, that we might be free. Endured, runs the race. I don't know why I do this. Over the last few years, I'm a washed-up soccer player, but I still run. For some reason, I run half marathons. I'll run these races. I don't know why. I'm sure some good therapy would help me figure out why I do this to myself. But I go for these runs, and it's fun. In my role at HPU, Ben can attest to this. I'm a pastor of a community that has a diverse ecumenical community. We have a Jewish rabbi, we have a Catholic priest. I work with these individuals in support of our students, and we got a new Catholic priest this year. The Charlotte Diocese has assigned to High Point University. And so I'm working with him. I'm helping him see the ropes, how to support our community. And he's a young guy. He's in his late 20s. He's got a short crop beard like myself. I'm afraid the students are going to confuse us all the time. And we're getting to know each other, and we're asking what we do for fun. And I say, well, I run. He goes, oh, me too. And I said, yeah, I'm going to run this half marathon soon. And he says, that's great. Can I join you? And I was like, bless your heart. And I didn't mean it in a good way. And he said, no, we should do that together. And I said, hey, man, I'm going to run kind of fast. And he goes, okay. And inside I went, oh no. What have I done? And I'm trying to get out of the conversation as quickly as I can because I can't backpedal now. And I excuse myself and I show up on race day and there's Father Harrison. And he says, hey, do you still want to run together? And I go, okay. And he says, well, about what pace do you want to run? I said, I'm looking to do this, which is way faster than a person in his early 40s should be running. He goes, well, okay, I'll help you do that. And we set out to run, and he's right beside me, and I'm going way faster than I should. There's no way that I'm going to hold this pace. And he's like, how you doing? And I said, I think I'm okay. Mile 2, how you doing? Yeah, I'm all right. Mile 3, yeah, I can do it. We get to the first water station. He runs ahead of me, grabs water, brings it back to me. We keep running. He does this every water station. I hate him for it and I love him for it. We're getting into like the tail end of the race. He's like throwing footballs with kids in yards. We cross the finish line. It's a faster time than I've ever run a half marathon. And I realize that it dawns on me, I ran that race, but I never would have run that race like I could without him. Like he ran that race for me and with me. My goodness. Did something to my heart that day, and not just from the tempo. This passage this morning, we meet the one in whom we want to have our focus on, the one who is the author and perfecter of our faith as we run the race. And for the joy put before Jesus, he teaches us how to run this race with endurance, if we would keep our eyes on him. In usual Preston fashion this morning, we've got 3 stops that I want us to pay attention to. This word, surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Say surrounded. Lovely, much better than the early service. He says we should fix our gaze on the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Say pioneer and perfecter. Lovely. And finally he says, for the joy put before him, he endured the cross. Say joy. Joy. Again, with this great cloud of witnesses, surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Man, what a blessing it is to be surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. I work with young adults, and I think about this word surrounded and the things that they're surrounded by. Surrounded by deadlines, by expectations, by a hurry sickness that gets a hold of their heart. A kind of surrounded by the expectations of their life that seems to squelch their soul. It's the same things you feel, I know you do. Day in, day out, that squeeze you. Make you feel like you live a claustrophobic life. It's really important to stop for a moment as we go through our liturgy this morning and we go through the order of service, and you got to remember why you're here. And it's in that lovely words of that contemporary worship song of, I may be surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Like, it's utterly vital what you do this morning. To come and shift your focus. To come and see anew. You can see like your soul is being squeezed, but if you could train your focus on the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, you can say, oh man, no, our lives are graced. We are loved more than we can imagine. It reshapes our visions for our lives now and what they can be. I'm married to Preston Davis, an incredible English teacher, and she serves me up some incredible poetry. She's introduced me to this individual named Joseph Fasano. I was watching an interview from Joseph Fasano. He's a poet out of the Northeast, and he was never a person of faith, but as he got into this life of poetry, he had no other language to describe it except for a spiritual experience that it put him before God. And he was in this interview and he was talking about how I just think we're all worshiping creatures. And even if you deny that you're a worshiping creature, you don't deny the longing that's within you. It's got to go somewhere. If it doesn't go to God, it's gonna go somewhere, something, someone. He says it's so utterly necessary to retrain our vision on things that are going to ennoble our souls as they so often get squeezed. He's got this poem that I absolutely love called Instructions for Having a Soul. I want to read it to you this morning. Instructions for having a soul. Take it out in the rain sometimes. It has vast, invisible wings that gather dirt and need rinsing. When it tries to kill you, that is because you've forgotten to let it look into someone's eyes for longer than a minute. It needs that the way a bee needs nectar in the early morning dew. Every so often, take it on a journey. Let it read long, hard books, and let it stare into the depths of the sea. Yes, you can give it chips and whiskey, but from time to time, let it kneel in a place that is holy, like the simple cathedral of the willows. All it wants is to live, to keep becoming, nourish it. And it puts down roots, it opens, but starve it, and the mind, the flesh, empty. The world breaks down, symphonies go unwritten, rockets fall, the children's die in flame. Listen, it's not too late to wake it. Say the names of the wild, the forgotten things. Bluebird, red wolf, robin, violet, child, clover. You cannot save the world, but you can open the window for the trapped wren in the cellar. Read a book to a blind man, to your father. Tell a child you do believe her anger. And make your life the first life that you save. It's not too late to wake the soul. Welcome to Davidson United Methodist Church, friends. You're here to wake your soul in the one who will wake you up. The one who will reorder your loves, the one who will help you see that you may be surrounded by a kind of world and a sin that clings so tightly, but in him, you can drop it and say, oh my God, I'm surrounded. I'm surrounded by grace. I'm surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. It's got to be named. This is what y'all have done for me and for my family. You may not know it. And some of you who may be new to this church, but my family who's been a part of this church for years, y'all are the great cloud of witnesses that are in our lives. It starts at home with someone like Chris Davis, who makes sure that I memorize the 23rd Psalm when I'm 8 years old. So even when I'm far from God in life, I can't unlearn that he prepares the table before me in the presence of my enemies. I can't unlearn that my cup overflows and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. My God, what a blessing. I spent time as a little child with Rob and Bert taking me to Camp Toccoa, making me see that following Jesus could be fun. Or how y'all colluded with my mom, Robbie Davis. And on a Friday night when I'm 16 years old and I want to go hang out with my friends, she goes, no, you got to come stay with me at Room in the Inn. And you hang out with folks who are struggling on the streets. And you get to meet Jesus, who breaks into our little bubble world of Davidson and just makes you see it in utterly new ways and go, oh, Jesus, there you are again. And I would have missed you had it not been for this cloud of witnesses. Or Ben, when I'm your age, I'm coming home from college one time in the middle of summer. I'm living in Greensboro, and I come in here and I sit in the back, and Jody's giving a sermon, and it's talking to all of us. But he's talking directly to me. He says, oh my God, y'all, it's like you're moving so fast. You're so hell-bent on being first and moving fast. You don't see how lost you are. And I realize things have got to change. I've got to change. I've got to see the world differently, because we don't see the world the way it is. We see the world the way we are. Worship is not secondary. Worship is primary. For changing the very depths that are within us so that we can see ourselves in the world differently. We may be surrounded by so much that we can't control, but my God, we are surrounded by the grace of God and a great cloud of witnesses that help us. Oh, what surrounds you? What widens your soul? What saves it? Or is it squeezed too tightly? Let the cage of that wren out and breathe and see anew. The author of Hebrews, he says, he's surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. Shake off the sin that clings so tightly. And the way that you do that is you train your vision. You look on the one who is the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. When you're in a race, you look forward. You look to something. You look to a Catholic priest who's dogging you, I guess. No, it depends on where you could be in the race of life, right? I mean, if you're in the race of life, you could see the end. Maybe that might bring some urgency to life, right? I had a friend of mine who was pastor of a small church. He was providing some new programs, and he was trying to get the retirees more involved. And he was talking to a couple who he wanted to take over this program. And he said, and would you do this for me? And the wife leaned across the table and put her hand on his and said, oh, bless your heart. And she said, we just don't have time for that. And his first thought was, you're retired. You got plenty of time. And then he thought, oh no, they've counted their days. They know with great urgency how they want to spend their time. They know how they want to use it. As soon as I get done preaching this morning and have lunch with my family, I'm getting in a Honda Odyssey with 3 young boys and my wife, and we're driving over to Kansas City for a World Cup game. 2 weeks in a minivan. I told this to a friend of mine, and he said, are you out of your mind? Except for I've counted the days. By the grace of God, and if I'm lucky, I get 6 more summers with my oldest sons. 6. That's it. If I'm lucky. If I'm graced. Oh, I'm going to embrace every moment of that minivan, Jordan and Christopher. You might look to the finish line. It brings some urgency, some importance. You might want to re-see what your life is about. It's important. That's what Aristotle said. He says, if you want to know how to live your life, lay your head down on its final days and you'll know how you want to live. The Christian faith goes further than that, though. You might even think about, what's beyond the finish line? There's a wild hope here. I told the earlier service this, and it's not in my notes, and it's just kind of come to me, and I'm wrestling through it, so I want to share it with you all this weekend. I came from annual conference surrounded by Methodists. A seminary professor of mine once said, you got to be careful hanging out with the United Methodists because they're so sweet, you hang out with them, they'll just give you a cavity, like just hanging out with them. It was funnier in the earlier service. And I'm hanging out at Lake Junaluska. I'm hosting an event for HBU. HBU is the United Methodist School by tradition. And we're having this event. I made a grave mistake. I scheduled the event on Friday for the same time as the U.S. men's national team game on Friday. And so I'm trying to think man, I got to figure this out. I'm a smart person. I can figure this out. And I'm late on Wednesday night, I'm looking at the TV, and I'm like, what's to keep me from taking the TV from my hotel room to this event? Don't do it, friends. I did it. I take the TV to the event. Event goes great. I'm watching it. We're watching the game. U.S. men's national team wins. It's wonderful. They win the group, so on and so forth. I'm coming back to my hotel room holding a television. I walk into my room, and there's a maintenance person installing a new television. He looks at me holding the television. I look at him installing the television, and he goes, well, where have you been? I said, I tell him the whole story. And he's like, well, why would you need that TV? I said, well, there's a soccer game on. I had to watch soccer game. He goes, soccer? Like, is it the World Cup thing? I go, yeah, that's exactly right. And I see some dawning of understanding on his face, like he's got it. And he goes, oh, yeah, the World Cup. Yeah. My niece went to the World Cup in South Africa. And I'm like, you get it? And he goes, no. She went to South Africa and she was hit by a drunk driver and died. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm still holding the television. I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. And I just keep repeating, I'm so sorry. And he goes, look, stop. She's okay. What is that? She's okay. She's going to be fine. A wild madness, a wild hope that if Jesus holds the keys of life and death, the one who's up from the grave, man, this isn't something for everybody, but it's something to those of us who've been through some trauma and been through it and see something and have this wild hope of the one who loves beyond the grave. It's going to be okay. Or as a mentor of mine once put it, I love the way he says it, it's like death is like a horizon. It's not the end, it's just the limit of our sight. We don't know what's beyond the grave, but we do know who is beyond the grave. And if our life is in Him, it's going to be okay. The author of Hebrews doesn't end there, though. He says, no, this is about the life now. And this is important because some of us in the Christian tradition, we can be so heavenly bent that we become no earthly good. But we can be so focused on getting to the by and by, we forget to live in the here and now. The author of Hebrews wants us to make sure that we're present here and now as the body of Christ, paying attention to the author and perfecter of our faith, this one who is the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, the one who doesn't just take us into the beyond this life, the one who takes us deep into the life here and now. That's what we really want. Now, you're United Methodist, so in this bulletin or in your hymnal, you've got what's called the New Revised Standard Version translation of the Bible, and it says pioneer and perfecter of faith. But if you go down the road to a Baptist church and you open their Bible, you'll have probably an NIV, and the NIV is going to say the author and perfecter of faith. I like that. Author and perfecter of faith. In my role, I work with a lot of folks, and some folks who have no experience of the Christian tradition, even kind of look down their nose at it, just think it looks preposterous. What is this 3-in-1 God thing, Preston? What is this math problem you guys spend time on? Like, no, it's not about that. Like, it's about a God who is one and all things encompassed in this one, this depth of love, like we find our lives in. It's many and it's one, like a really deep, loving relationship. There's some of that here, author and perfecter of faith. Both one who writes the story and then perfects the story. C.S. Lewis, one of the last things he ever wrote in 1963 was a short story, or a short essay rather, called The Seeing Eye. And it was a story in response to Yuri Gagarin. Yuri Gagarin was the Russian cosmonaut who was first up into space. And the doctrine of Russia at the time was one of atheism. And so pandering to Russia, when he came back down, he says, I've gone into space and I see no heavenly Father. I see no creator. And C.S. Lewis writes, well, that's silly. Like, you don't relate to God like the person on the first floor going up the elevator to a person on the second floor. Like, Hamlet would never relate to Shakespeare by looking through his castles and all through Denmark to try to find the author, even though the author's fingerprints are on everything. We could extend it to the author and perfecter of the faith. It's as if like God is writing this story of life for us and sees us tragedy Shakespearean players who know not to be or to be. And God says, I'm going to write myself into the story in Jesus and be with you no matter what. You tragically bound people. I'm in. I'm with you. Oh my God. He's not just the one who writes the story. He's the one of how the story goes. He's the one who receives our blows and gives back blessing. He's the one who is wounded for our iniquity, and yet he heals all the same. He's the one for the joy put before him endures the cross, and while on the cross looks back at a people like you and me and says, "Oh, God, forgive them. They know not what they do." Their souls so easily get squeezed and they lose their way. No, worship is primary, not secondary. We need this to see again, to see our lives again, to retrain who we look at for what life looks like and what it can be. The book of Hebrews then says, before the joy that was put before him, he endured the cross. The joy that was put before him, he endured the cross. Not he endured the cross for the joy. The joy that was already put before him made him endure the cross. And working with young folks, they'll often, I see their lives, and they think if they can have a little more grit, a little more tenacity, then the joy will come. This is okay. We teach them this. We unintentionally teach them this. We don't want them not to have grit or tenacity. But if you just grind your teeth harder, if you just struggle a little bit more, then the joy will come. It's good. It's okay. It's a truth. It's just not the Christian truth. Because the Christian joy is one of a recognition that you're already graced. It's the knowledge that you're loved and there's nothing you can do to earn it. It's the joy that comes from the understanding of his joy may be in you, that your joy may be complete. It's the joy that is the strength of the Lord that builds your life and not your own skillful, calculating tenacity. It's an otherworldly kind of joy. It's a perplexing kind of joy. It's not a one of your will, but God's will be done. It's a one of resting in him rather than wringing your hands. It's a one where the joy is what helps you endure and not the other way around. My students teach this to me again and again and again. Sometimes as a leader, I think, I've got to have it all figured out. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going to go on. And they're like, chill. No, Jesus has got this under control, not you. Thank God. And they're so holy. The short of the story of how I became a pastor, it's y'all's fault, by the way. But the other reason the way I became a pastor was that I just needed more help than anybody else. And this is proved again and again when I'm with my students. So one of our students this year, Meredith Day, who's the leader of the Board of Stewards, they're the leaders of Hayworth Chapel on our campus. She said, well, if we're going to be leading people to Jesus, we just got to spend more time with Jesus. And she said, we're going to be hanging out at Open Door Ministries and West End Ministries, people that are serving folks who are living on the streets and High Point. And to be honest, I'd rather just be hanging out with Jordan, Christopher, and Alexander. And so it's a Monday night, and it's the time to go serve at Open Door Ministry, and I'd rather go be hanging with them, but my students are at Open Door Ministry, and so I got to go to Open Door Ministry. And then I've got to drive to the bad side of town. I don't know if you've ever served in homeless shelters, but you go in and it's always the smell that hits you first. And it's I'm afraid it's going to get on me. And you got to go through that. And then you get in and the food's already prepared. The tables are set. All the work is done. So you're just hanging out. You're hanging out on the side of the wall and you're like, when is it socially acceptable to leave? When can I get out of here? Will that look bad if I go now? It's not good enough for my students. And so they go sit with people at tables. So I've got to go sit with people at tables. And I go to a table and there's an older gentleman there and I say, hey, can I sit with you? And he goes, it's a free country, isn't it? I think that means yes. I'm not sure, but I think it means yes. And so I sit down and he says, I bet you're curious how I ended up in here. And I didn't ask it, but I guess he perceives that's what's on all of our minds. It was on my mind. He said, it began with a fight with my son and my daughter-in-law, and they kicked me out of the house. And I drove up to Maine, where I'm from, and the whole time I'm thinking about the words that the foot I stuck in my mouth, and the words I wish I could take back. And I'm thinking about my grandsons, who I miss so much. They call me Pepe, which is grandfather in French. I didn't see that coming. He says, I'm in Maine, and the woman I'm staying with, she changes. I got to get out of there. It's a bad situation. And so it's almost wintertime. So I know what I'm going to do. I'll drive back down to High Point. I'll figure it out. At least it'll be warmer down there. I'm driving back down North Carolina. It's colder in North Carolina than it is in Maine. So I'm sleeping in my car. Maybe it's the snow. Maybe it's how cold it is. Maybe it's the regret I have about what I said to my son. Maybe it's how much I miss my grandkids. But I call my son and say, hey, we've got to talk face to face. And his son says, well, how are we going to do that? You're in Maine. He goes, no, I'm home. I'm here. His son goes, oh, okay. And so they get together and he says, son, I just need you to listen for a little while. And he says, he did that for me, Preston. He just listened. And a week goes by and I get a text from him and he says, we've got mail for you at the house. And I don't know whether that means he's going to bring me the mail or if I should go get the mail. So I just text back, okay. And a couple days go by and he says, well, are you going to come get the mail or not? So I go to the house and I'm a little disappointed. They put the mail in the mailbox. I go to the mailbox, I get the mail. I'm walking back to the car and I hear this knocking on the door. It's the door of the house. It's my daughter-in-law. She's got one finger up as if to say, wait. And she opens the door just a hair. He said this to me with such joy on his face. Says she opened up the door just a hair and out broke these two little boys yelling, Pepe, Pepe, Pepe. Preston, I'll stay in here as long as I have to stay in their life. For the joy that was set before him, he would endure anything. Where do you train your eyes, friends? Who gets your focus? Does it squeeze your soul or does it set it free? He asked, let my joy be in you that your joy may be complete. So that you may know how to run this race with endurance and not just for you, but for a great cloud of witnesses that are right beside you here in years to come. Thanks be to God.